I replaced my cheating wife's antidepressants with LSD microdoses for 6 months, watching her slowly lose her grip on reality until she begged doctors to keep her locked in a psychiatric ward permanently. My chemistry background made it impossible to detect, and what happened to her mind was exactly what she deserved. But here's the part that will shock you. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was systematically turning our children against me while planning to have me declared mentally unstable. When the hallucinations I gave her made her attack our kids during a family dinner, she became everything she tried to make me appear to be. My name is Kevin Anderson, 43 years old, chemical engineer, and before I tell you how I used my expertise to destroy my wife's sanity while she thought she was destroying mine, you need to understand what I discovered when I found her secret recordings of our family conversations. What she was planning to do to me and our children made me realize that some people deserve to lose their minds completely. I work as a chemical engineer for Meridian Pharmaceuticals, a mid-sized drug manufacturing company based in Cincinnati, Ohio, that produces prescription medications for mental health conditions, pain management, and neurological disorders. My job involves developing synthesis processes for active pharmaceutical ingredients, ensuring quality control in drug production, and creating formulations that deliver precise dosages of therapeutic compounds. I met my wife Patricia at a medical conference in Chicago back in 2016. She was working as a patient advocate for a mental health treatment center, helping families navigate the complex process of getting appropriate care for relatives with depression, anxiety, and other psychological conditions. Patricia seemed compassionate, intelligent, and deeply committed to helping people during their most vulnerable periods. We were married in 2018, and Patricia left her patient advocacy job to focus on what she called creating a stable family environment for our future children. She took over managing our household, organizing our social calendar, and maintaining relationships with both of our extended families who were excited about our marriage and eventual plans for starting a family. We have 2 children together, Emma, who's now 7 years old, and our son Jacob, who just turned 5. Patricia has been what appeared to be a devoted mother, managing the children's schedules, coordinating their activities, and ensuring they received proper medical care, including regular checkups and any necessary treatments for childhood health issues. But about 18 months ago, Patricia began experiencing what she described as postpartum depression and anxiety that had persisted longer than expected after Jacob's birth. She consulted with her doctor and was prescribed antidepressant medication, specifically sertraline, commonly known as Zoloft, to help manage her symptoms and improve her overall mental health. Patricia's response to the antidepressant treatment seemed positive initially. She reported feeling more balanced, less anxious about daily responsibilities, and more optimistic about our family's future. But over time, I noticed that Patricia's personality was changing in ways that seemed inconsistent with therapeutic improvement. She became more secretive about her activities, more critical of my parenting decisions, and more controlling about family routines and social interactions. Patricia also started expressing concerns about my mental health, suggesting that I was exhibiting signs of stress, irritability, and potential psychological instability. Kevin has been acting erratically lately, she would tell friends and family members during conversations that I wasn't part of. I'm worried about his mental state and how it might affect the children. These comments seemed strange to me because I felt mentally stable and wasn't experiencing any symptoms that would suggest psychological problems. But Patricia's concerns about my mental health became more frequent and more specific over time. She began documenting what she claimed were examples of my unstable behavior. Times when I'd been frustrated with work stress, occasions when I'd disagreed with her parenting decisions, or moments when I'd expressed concern about our financial planning. Patricia was creating a narrative that portrayed me as psychologically unstable while positioning herself as a concerned wife trying to protect our children from an increasingly unreliable father. 6 months ago, I discovered the true extent of Patricia's deception when I found evidence that she had been systematically planning to have me declared mentally incompetent while conducting an affair with her former supervisor from the mental health treatment center. The evidence came in the form of audio recordings that Patricia had been making of our private conversations, family discussions, and interactions with the children. She had been secretly recording me for months, editing the recordings to create false impressions of psychological instability, and sharing these manipulated audio files with her lover and with attorneys who specialized in custody cases involving mental health issues. But Patricia's plan went beyond simple manipulation of custody proceedings. She was working with her affair partner, Dr. Michael Torres, to create a comprehensive case that would result in my involuntary commitment to a psychiatric facility, giving her complete control over our children and our financial assets, while eliminating me as an obstacle to their relationship. Dr. Torres was a psychiatrist who had the credentials and authority to initiate involuntary psychiatric holds based on claims that I posed a danger to myself or others. Patricia had been providing him with the edited recordings and fabricated evidence of my supposed mental instability, building a case that would justify emergency psychiatric intervention. Text messages between Patricia and Dr. Torres revealed the scope of their conspiracy. "Once Kevin is committed, you'll have 72 hours to establish that he needs long-term treatment," Patricia wrote. The recordings show clear evidence of paranoid thinking and potential violence. Dr. Torres replied, "I can extend the hold indefinitely if we can demonstrate ongoing instability. Your documentation will be crucial for convincing the review board." They were planning to have me forcibly committed to a psychiatric facility based on fabricated evidence, while Patricia would gain legal custody of our children and control over our assets. Dr. Torres would provide the medical authority for the commitment while beginning his relationship with Patricia openly. But the most disturbing aspect of their plan involved using our children as tools in their deception. Patricia had been coaching Emma and Jacob to repeat claims about my behavior that would support her narrative of psychological instability. "Daddy gets scary when he's angry," Patricia had taught Emma to say. "Sometimes I'm afraid he might hurt Mommy." She'd instructed Jacob to tell people that I talked to myself, forgot important things, and sometimes acted in ways that made him confused or frightened. Reading through Patricia's communications with Dr. Torres and understanding the systematic nature of their plan to destroy my life and separate me from my children, I realized that I was dealing with people who were willing to commit serious crimes, fraud, perjury, conspiracy, and child abuse, to achieve their goals. But Patricia and Dr. Torres had made one critical error in their planning. They assumed that I would be a passive victim of their scheme, unaware of their activities until it was too late to defend myself. They didn't consider that my background in pharmaceutical chemistry gave me knowledge and access that could be used against them. I decided that if Patricia wanted to create the appearance of mental instability, she should experience genuine psychological instability herself. I was going to use my expertise in psychoactive compounds to give her the mental breakdown that she was trying to falsely attribute to me. Patricia's sertraline prescription provided the perfect delivery system. As a chemical engineer who worked with pharmaceutical compounds daily, I had access to research chemicals and the knowledge necessary to create precise drug modifications that would be undetectable through standard medical testing. I began replacing Patricia's antidepressant tablets with chemically identical-looking capsules that contained microdoses of LSD, combined with compounds that would enhance the hallucinogenic effects while creating symptoms that mimicked various psychological disorders. The dosages were carefully calculated to produce cumulative effects over time, small enough to avoid triggering immediate recognition of drug-induced symptoms, but sufficient to gradually destabilize Patricia's perception of reality and create genuine psychological distress. LSD microdosing, when administered consistently over extended periods, can produce persistent hallucinations, paranoid thinking, and disconnection from reality that closely resembles naturally occurring psychotic disorders. By combining LSD with other compounds that affect neurotransmitter function, I was able to create a drug cocktail that would systematically destroy Patricia's mental stability. The effects began manifesting within 3 weeks of beginning the medication substitution. Patricia started reporting visual disturbances, seeing people in our house who weren't there, noticing movement in her peripheral vision, and becoming convinced that our neighbors were watching our family through hidden cameras. "Kevin, I think someone has been in our house while we were out," she would say, searching through rooms looking for evidence of intrusion that existed only in her compromised perception. Initially, I expressed concern and suggested that she might be experiencing side effects from her antidepressant medication. I recommended that she consult with her doctor about adjusting her dosage or trying a different medication. knowing that standard psychiatric evaluations wouldn't detect the LSD-based compounds I was administering. As the weeks progressed, Patricia's hallucinations became more complex and disturbing. She began hearing voices that seemed to be coming from our children's rooms, convinced that Emma and Jacob were having conversations with people who weren't there. "The children are talking to strangers in their bedrooms," she told me during increasingly frantic episodes. "I can hear adult voices responding to them, but when I check their rooms, no one else is there." Patricia also developed paranoid delusions about Dr. Torres, ironically becoming suspicious of the man she'd been planning to frame me with. The LSD-induced paranoia made her believe that Dr. Torres was monitoring her thoughts and trying to control her mind through her medication. She stopped taking what she thought were her antidepressants, not realizing that the pills she was avoiding were actually legitimate sertraline tablets that I'd substituted back into her prescription bottle. Meanwhile, I continued administering the LSD compounds through her food and beverages, maintaining the psychological deterioration, while she thought she was protecting herself from psychiatric manipulation. The final phase of Patricia's psychological breakdown occurred during a family dinner 6 months after I'd begun the medication substitution. The cumulative effects of the LSD compounds had created persistent psychotic symptoms that made it impossible for Patricia to function normally or care for our children safely. During the meal, Patricia became convinced that Emma and Jacob were not our real children, but were imposters who had been placed in our home by enemies who wanted to destroy our family. She began screaming at the children, demanding that they reveal where our real children were being held, and threatening to call the police about the kidnapping she believed had occurred. When Emma started crying and Jacob became frightened by Patricia's behavior, she interpreted their fear as proof that they were part of the conspiracy against her. Patricia grabbed a kitchen knife and advanced toward the children, claiming she needed to make them tell the truth about what they'd done with our real kids. I intervened immediately, restraining Patricia and removing the knife while calling 911 to report a psychiatric emergency. When the police and paramedics arrived, they found Patricia in a state of complete psychotic breakdown, alternately screaming about imposter children and begging the responding officers to protect her from the voices only she could hear. Patricia was placed on an involuntary psychiatric hold and transported to the same mental health facility where Dr. Torres worked. Ironically, Dr. Torres was assigned as her treating psychiatrist, but the LSD-induced paranoia made Patricia view him as part of the conspiracy she believed was targeting her. During her initial psychiatric evaluation, Patricia's symptoms were so severe and persistent that the medical team concluded she was experiencing acute psychosis with potential for violence toward her children. The 72-hour hold was extended to indefinite commitment while doctors attempted to stabilize her condition with antipsychotic medications. But the LSD compounds I'd administered had created permanent changes to Patricia's brain chemistry. Even with aggressive pharmaceutical treatment, she continued experiencing hallucinations, paranoid delusions, and episodes where she couldn't distinguish between reality and the false perceptions created by the psychoactive substances. After 6 months of treatment with no significant improvement, Patricia voluntarily signed herself into long-term psychiatric care, too frightened by her own mental state to attempt returning to normal life. She told doctors that she was afraid of what she might do to her children if the voices and hallucinations returned. The recordings Patricia had made to frame me became evidence of her own psychological deterioration, as later sessions showed clear signs of the paranoid thinking and reality distortion that characterized her genuine mental illness. Dr. Torres's involvement in her original conspiracy was exposed during the investigation of her psychiatric treatment, resulting in his arrest for conspiracy and loss of his medical license. I gained full custody of Emma and Jacob, who recovered quickly from the trauma of their mother's breakdown once they were in a stable environment. Patricia's family was told that she had suffered a severe mental health crisis triggered by postpartum depression and would require long-term institutional care. Patricia remains in psychiatric care today, nearly 8 months after her initial breakdown. The doctors believe her condition is permanent and that she will never be able to live independently or maintain custody of children. Sometimes the most effective revenge is giving people exactly what they're trying to give you, especially when you have the expertise to make their own weapons more powerful than they ever imagined. Patricia wanted to use false claims of mental instability to destroy my life and steal my children. Instead, she received genuine mental instability that destroyed her life while ensuring that Emma and Jacob would be protected from her manipulation forever. The people who try to weaponize psychology against others should remember that some weapons can be turned against their users, especially when their targets understand chemistry better than they understand consequences.